same as, well, most of it is not the same as his Orlando team. Most especially the missing Chef Remy and Chef Gusto. I really loved the name that they had for their Mousehold and for their Iron Hands. It was great.
It was amazing.
But a little bit of a change here. So
Yes.
some similarities for some teams and a little bit different.
Some really interesting team. We're seeing Nate on the left here with that Fluttermane, Armor Rouge, Brute Bonnet, Gothitelle, Dondozo, and Tatsugiri, and Isaac on the right with Amoonguss, Iron Hands, Furry Giraffe, King Gambit, Fluttermane, and Screamtail. Now the interesting thing here is we're seeing Tatsudozo again, which we did see quite a bit last time. It's died down in Series 2, but it's still prevalent. This is the first time we're seeing it on stream today, but and possibly the only time. We were. I don't know if anyone else is running it, but it's a lot less common than it was. Isaac's team, more of a standard Trick Room team with obviously Fluttermane in case you need to go for a fast mode. But I think here, Nate, part of what really works with Nate's team is you have so many options. You have Fluttermane with Perish Trap and Gothitelle. You have Armor Rouge from Trick Room with Brute Bonnet. You have Tatsudozo, which we were talking about. So there's so many ways that team can go, and I think that's one of Nate's specialties, is so many options. We're going to see Isaac send out that King Gambit and Fur Giraffe, and Fluttermane, Brute Bonnet leading for Nate.
It's a blast from the past on Nate's side of the team as we lead double pass Paradox Pokemon here. Photosynthesis is going to activate with that for that speed with the booster energy for that Fluttermane. King Gambit Fur Giraffe is actually kind of wildly interesting here, right? You have the ability to maybe go for Trick Room if you really wanted to. King Gambit just offers a lot of offensive pressure. Brute Bonnet, I know a lot of people were kind of terrified for it because of the fact that, hey, it's like a Amoonguss but can do other stuff. And like, really, did you need two versions of Amoonguss? No, you didn't. Pokemon said, hey, that's fine, right? The access to Sucker Punch specifically for something like Brute Bonnet is actually kind of terrifying, right? Because now both King Gambit and Brute Bonnet have access to something like this, and you can still put Pokemon to sleep, and you can still redirect stuff. So really, Brute Bonnet has a lot of like versatility here.
The only thing you gotta watch out for is, of course, that for a draft, it does have Armor Tail. You cannot Sucker Punch it. However, you can go for powerful attacks still, and that Terra to Fire is really nice because you can get burned, but also it's just a really good defensive type on Brute Bonnet. There's a lot of really good defensive types for Brute Bonnet, Fire being one of them, obviously. But if you're going to go for a Terra on Brute Bonnet, you're not going to go for one of the ones you have. You're going to go for something that keeps your longevity. And we're going to see Sucker Punch from King Gambit, but it's not going to work out. And I think, if I remember correctly, there is a Spore. Yeah, so Spore onto the King Gambit means it's going to take, thanks to that Sucker Punch, is at least sleep for this next upcoming turn. And then is for a draft with that Trick Room. It's interesting here because even with the Trick Room, Brute Bonnet still does a lot. It just does so much. It only has one attack, which is Bullet Seed, that I can use because of the Armor Tail, but it's still powerful on that for a draft. And Fluttermane, it's in a spot where you could really either switch it or go for the attack. Both of them are solid options here.
I really think you should go for an attack.
I think here, especially because Gambit's asleep, you should go for attack, and Furdraft's not going to touch you very much, but like, if it's also kind of, if you wanted to switch, you're not going to get hit by Gambit. So I think if you just double up on the Furdraft, you can probably get rid of it.
And this is definitely like one of those turns where you're able to just at least put a little bit more offensive pressure. Like, it's weird because it's like sometimes when you look at these Pokemon, you're like, they don't really seem like they would hit that hard. But Amoonguss is going to come in here for that Furdraft. For King Gambit taking that necessary sleep turn now because it was spored earlier in that earlier turn. Bullet Seed here with the loaded dice here from that Brute Bonnet. Amoonguss though is going to eat up that attack like it's nothing.
No damage.
It's just very slowly, inch by inch, moving down in terms of HP. And like, you know, you could just switch out the Amoonguss and it could just get back that HP regenerator. But Moonblast here is the follow-up. Still also not going to do much.
No, that was a great switch.
That looked like just one attack. Sure, the special attack falls. It doesn't really matter here.
Really matter.
I think honestly, if you had directed that attack at something like the King Gambit, like sure it was asleep, but that's a perfect time to get rid of a huge threat like that. Like Furgraf, sure has access to things like Hyper Voice and things like that, but you did have a defensive typing on your Brute Bonnet. So really, I think if you're able to focus out on something like the King Gambit, where you're able to just be like, hey, let me get rid of like a bigger threat here, then you can take care of everything else that happens in the back.
This is an interesting spot for Nate here because Gambit is a pretty big threat. The two Pokemon in the back are weak to Gambit, and if you do end up going for that Fluttermane's go, you could attack the Gambit neutrally at best and then die. But it's either Counter Cleave, Iron Head, Sucker Punch, anything that Gambit has. Fluttermane can't Perish Song though, and you can bring in the Gothitelle, but then Gothitelle's gonna watch out for those dark moves. So right now it is I think Nate is in an interesting spot. He definitely has the advantage in terms of positioning right now, but type-wise, Gambit's a huge threat, and it's really going to be tough to knock it out here.
Yeah, you also have to
Yeah.
worry about being put to sleep on your own Pokemon against the Amoonguss from
Yeah.
the other side as well. Because the fire typing on there is
There's
like
that Spore.
the downside of that. But Spore, safety goggles with Gothitelle is going to go around that. However, the King Gambit does wake up on this turn, so Iron Head is going to go into that Flutter Mane spot. So a really good protect here from Nate is able to stop any sort of that damage. And now both of these Pokemon are locked in. You know that the Gothitelle can't be put to sleep because of the fact that it has a safety goggle. But now you also have to worry about the fact that, hey, it won't be able to recover any HP like it normally would, which is what you really want for something like Gothitelle when it's trying to trap Pokemon, and you want it to have a little bit more longevity here.
Oh, okay. I was totally expecting this to go to that Air Song because Gothitelle does safety goggles. You can fake out onto the King Gambit. You're probably going to end up losing one of your two by the end of it, but you are going to knock out Gambit and Amoonguss. And with Gambit, like I said, there's not much you can do on it. I mean, even if you do bring in Armarouge, it's still weak to Dark and weak to Sucker Punch, so and you don't have anything to stop that. So it is one of those. We're gonna see the Flutter Mane switch out to Armarouge
Yeah,
again.
I do love what he's actually doing here. So he is faking out, but he's not faking out the King Gambit. He's actually faking out the Amoonguss here, which is really nice because that means that the Amoonguss can't spore anything, right? The Flutter Mane is still able to at least, the Armarouge is able to come in relatively safe. You don't have to worry about something like the spore hitting into it. And now you're just sort of, if you were Isaac, you have to play this game of like, what can I put to sleep? And it can't be the Gothitelle because the Gothitelle has the safety goggles, right? And for me, you're also in a really spot, like a fantastic spot where you're like able to bring in something in that Gothitelle spot because there's a 90% chance you won't spawn into it.
That's exactly what I would have done if I was Nate. I mean, like, that is the play because Armarouge is your heavy attacker. It hits so much on the other side, and there is that Brute Bonnet to try and at least negate some of the damage you've got. A lot of options there. You could Spore, you could Rage Powder, or you see Gambit go ahead and Terra, and that turns into Flying, which is a actually really nice Terra there because Armarouge doesn't have anything that's super effective against it, and King Gambit just once again giving itself more longevity, which is amazing for King Gambit. It just hits so much on its team. Protect on Armarouge there, which smart. You don't want to have it go down to a King Gambit. Terra Blast onto the Armarouge. I guess I was expecting a Terra Grass on the Armarouge, but no, not going to happen. Which because Bonnet obviously already Terra'd maybe. I don't know why you wouldn't go for that or go for the Terra Blast unless you switch in or I don't know, instead of Kowtow. Okay, but it worked out. I mean, it didn't matter.
So the nice thing here though is that Nate was able to pivot enough times that he was able to stop, like, wait out the Trick Room, which I think is the really kind of pivoting factor here for Nate. Like, now that like Trick Room is expired, you're able to at least try to get the speed back in your favor. And the wild thing here though is that with the Flying Terra King Gambit, you're in a spot now where you have to deal a little bit more damage into that spot than you could have before. And I think that if you were at least able to get some damage before it was able to Terra and wake up, then you would have been in a better spot. But here Isaac's actually going to take out the Amoonguss because there's actually a lot of trouble here for Isaac on Nate's side with all that fire going around.
Come back in with that Rage Powder next. That's a solid play. Obviously you want Armarouge to do it. Like your Sucker Punch, not going to happen because they're of that Rage Powder. That's a free hit for Armarouge with an Armor Cannon on Furdraft, and that should still do solid. I don't think it'll knock out, but it should still do solid. Yeah, like over 50%, but it's also going to make Armarouge's defense and special defense drop. So that puts it in a position where I believe it's Trick Room still out.
No, Trick Room expired last turn, so which is why the Photograph is coming in here. I think if you do that same thing again, you go for Armor Cannon, you go for a Rage Powder. At least you're denying Trick Room the second time. The King Gambit is a little bit of a problem. The issue that I'm seeing here with the way that Isaac is playing this King Gambit right now is that he is just going for sucker punches as opposed to actually going for attacking moves, right? I mean, it's not like you don't have access to other moves. We saw the Terra Blast, but you know, Kowtow Cleave, like just kind of like a standard move that you would have on here. But I honestly think that you don't really have to worry. Okay, but
that's actually smart. I like that play.
I mean, so at least you spore whatever comes. If it's the Amoonguss, you're kind of in trouble. Never mind. So.
Still though, I mean, it's not a bad play. It was the safest one because Gambit is so good.
Alright,
I was not expecting that, but that's smart.
Oh no, I get it. It's because now next turn you can Rage Powder with the Amoonguss, and so the Armarouge will have to like attack there.
And you get the
Spore, obviously one attack here. I think though, does his Brute Bonnet like, oh yeah, even with like everything going, I mean, the Rage Powder actually, it'll still work now on the Brute Bonnet because it Terra fired, but that actually puts Isaac in a really nice spot where he's able to set up a trick room again.
Yep.
So Nate does have to at least, I mean, he can pick up a knockout here on the Amoonguss, and so that's like one less thing to worry about.
Well, one thing I know for a fact is that for draft is, if it's min speed, it is going to be slower than Armor Rouge, sure, which means, and with Armor Rouge now being at -1 in its defenses, that's or now -2 in its defenses, it's going to force to a switch or...
Interesting.
I guess he kind of just knew that that was going to happen. I mean, there's an Amoonguss on the field and a fire type on the other side. What is to expect? But it's kind of that was a smart play, I guess, to try and get a score off. But Bullet Seed gonna connect with the first draft. That
he needs a critical hit here somewhere.
Yeah,
all five.
All 5 are a crit.
He needs all 5 of them to hit, or at least one more.
Well, hold on.
No, one more should knock it out actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So 4 was enough there.
There you go. Now you're in a really tough spot because you don't get that trick room back up, and you have. I mean, Gambit's still good, but like it's mind games with Sucker Punch with Rage Powder, and I think just that Terra Flying means you don't have anything that can hit it super effectively, but still, like now with Flutter Mane coming out, that's actually not that bad. I mean, it's still tough because Armor Rouge is probably going to get a free hit even if you go for that Rage Powder on the Brute Bonnet, but like it's powerful enough, and at this point it could actually, yeah, you know, looking at Nate's side,
I mean, Nate still has just a really
Nate's in a really good spot.
You can honestly like find a way to pivot to do a Perish Trap, and it still won't really matter.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because like as soon as you get Perish Trap, it's over. Like then you just gotta pivot, like you said, in the right spots and make it as if you're make sure you live for 3 turns and it's game. But
like honestly, this is one of those moments where like, oh, this is exactly where you want everything to happen. Yeah, you can put things to sleep because that actually puts you in an even better spot for later on, right? Because then you're free to just like kind of switch stuff around as you do.
Yeah, Armor is gonna swap on out, which is also gonna remove its defense nerfs there, which is really gonna benefit because right now this is a game of lasting long enough so you can Perish Trap. But that Shadow Ball was a really good hit there because it is going to knock down that Gothitelle, but
I mean, it was
doesn't really matter.
Gothitelle was going to be the Armor Rouge, right? Either way, it was going to be.
It's like it doesn't really matter at this point. Gothitelle isn't going to. It's called Perish Trap. Well, these are the last 2. You're not going to be trapped anymore. You just got to Perish Song and make sure you survive. But here, Kingambit going to bed. Flutter Mane now the only thing that can move on the field. That's kind of nice, honestly, because yeah, I was going to say you can Rage Powder and get your own Flutter Mane back in play. Or you can attack, I mean, that works too. But if you do that, you can just, that's how you now start the process of Perish Song. Go for it, then you can spam Rage Powder, go to Gothitelle, just kind of cycle out everything here.
Yeah, I mean, this endgame is very much in its favor in a lot of ways, right? 4 versus 2, I mean, sure, it's like kind of, it might be possible.
Is Bolton going to pick up the knockout on main here?
If it hits for 5, it might be able to. Oh, that's from 2 of them? Yeah, he needs to hit all 5 to be able to get it.
Unless it crits too, that could have
so if he gets 2 more, it's a knockout on Flutter Mane, and there it is.
No!
Oh, wow,
Flutter lives it.
5.
Gambit wakes up this turn. That's gonna be really happening. Okay, actually not as bad as I thought. I thought it was gonna be over 50. Definitely, yeah, you just, okay, yeah, at this point...
You just Rage Powder here, and like, you are in a good spot. I mean, tree.
No, that's definitely that's the play for sure. Because I was gonna say if you get knocked out to the other Flutter Mane, that Gambit gets a free hit on you. So yeah, that was smart.
Flutter Mane just screams before we get knocked out. It will fate in 3 turns. So I mean, honestly, just like a really good endgame from Nate.
Yeah,
right?
Nate's
but also just a lot of really good offensive pressure. Was able to wait out the trick room, which I'm sure he's not used to having to do because normally he's the one setting up the trick room here.
And there's the end of Isaac's Flutter Mane there. It is now just Kingambit. And again, Kingambit's okay. Here's the thing: Kingambit is it still has potential, but when we know what's in the back, the thing is. This is kind of interesting. If it doesn't knock out something right now, if this counter does not knock out on it, it's over because it doesn't even matter now. Gambit can only has 3 turns left. There's 4 Pokemon on each side. Even if it were to knock out something each turn, there's still 1 Pokemon left that isn't going to get perished.
Yeah,
so it's over.
I mean, honestly, too, though, I think the stumbling here for Isaac is that like Isaac, I think, relied too much on Sucker Punch, and Sucker Punch is really good for mind games. I think in a matchup like this, you really have to be attacking a lot, right? Because if you have the Farigiraf next to you, you don't have to worry about your opponent's own Sucker Punch. Like you can just attack with relative freedom, and I think honestly, the kind of terror on Nate's team was this Brute Bonnet, right? It was able to just do so much damage and was able to stop so much of Isaac's team. Like, yeah, that Amoonguss was able to like eat up both a Moonblast and a Bullet Seed from Nate's side, but at the end of the day, I think if your King Gambit is able to at least have some offensive pressure, then you should be using that to your advantage. I think sometimes people fall into the trap that Sucker Punch is like Sucker Punch is such an interesting double-edged mind game of
It really is.
And the way to use it is really tough sometimes. I think in this instance, going for a little bit more offensive pressure with Isaac in terms of like actually attacking. I mean, we did see them try to go for at least one Terra Blast to no avail because of the Protect, but I think here there was too much of a reliance on that Sucker Punch to help them out.
Yeah, Sucker Punch is absolutely, like you said, it is a mind game.
Oh no.
Knows everything, but it is a mind game because it's a risk. Are they going to go for it or are they not? And if not, you could lose your Pokemon. But one thing I wanted to point out too was that Terra Fire. Just as I was saying, King Gambit Terra Flying helps Isaac's longevity on King Gambit. The Terra Fire on Brute Bonnet is the reverse for Nate. It works so well because of you. Once again, if you look at Isaac's team, nothing on Isaac's team really hits a fire type nicely. All of them are. Your best bet is to go for like just your strongest moves. You're not going to have a super effective move on it, and I think that's really part of why Nate won that matchup, because that fire type really just it puts that Brute Bonnet into a way bulkier position than it used to be. That's gonna be interesting. I think I'll see Tatsu does. Okay, I like that. I think, yeah, just that'll be interesting. I think it's actually quite smart because when you look at Isaac's team, with the exception of Fluttermane, everything's relatively slow, and Tatsu Dozo, depending on how much speed investment you put in it, could actually be quite fast and powerful and knocks a lot out here. I'd say the only thing that you really have to worry about would be like the this, but everything else is pretty yeah, I think if you're Isaac here, you kind of have to go for that Trick Room. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the exact same Pokemon, but because that Tatsu Dozo, I think the Iron Hands would be a good adjustment, but obviously we don't know. Isaac doesn't know what bringing it. I think that would be a good adjustment.
I think for Isaac, even if you manage to get the Trick Room, you have to be a little bit more proactive in your damage, because I don't think that the Trick Room turns were as useful to him as they were before. Ferrograph and Iron Hand is actually really great here because one, even without knowing about the whole Tatsugiri Dodonzo thing going on, Iron Hand's Ferrograph is just really nice because one has a fake out option, and so you can at least semi-guarantee yourself the Trick Room setup, and then the other one will have at least the chance to do a lot of like extra damage into other Pokemon. Sure, you run the risk of things to sleep, but Iron Hands is actually just one of those Pokemon that is kind of terrifying if you just sort of let it run wild. Is able to recur, like, you know, you have the Wild Charge, which is pretty heavy electric type move, but you're able to like recoup that damage with the Drain Punch as well. So I think Ferrograph here is definitely your target for your Pokemon, but if Trick Room gets set up, then if you're Isaac, you have to be a lot more proactive with how you're attacking here, especially with the Iron Hands on the field. So Armrouge is going to come out here in place of that Tatsugiri. So kind of an interesting partner here for that Bonnet. Yeah, the Terra and the Iron Hands also. So we are going to see that Isaac is going to go for that Grass Terra type, so is going to prevent itself from being Spored, going to ignore Rage Powders. Really fantastic sort of adjustment for Isaac as fake out here into Armrouge. Not going to matter because the Armrouge did just switch in here, but Bullet Seed here from Brute Bonnet, I don't think is going to quite be able to pick up the knockout here, even with all of the attacks into it, which leaves Isaac free to kind of set up this Trick Room. You get a lot of damage down into that Ferrograph, which is nice, but the more important thing for Isaac though is that he's able to set up that Trick Room, and barring like every single one of those hits being a critical hit, like this is that guaranteed setup right now, leaving this Iron Hands in a very, very nice position to be able to start doling out damage. Yeah,
I think here, like you said, Iron Hands is just hits a lot on this team. I think that Terra Grass was so important because, like you said, it now can't get Spored, can't get Rage Powdered. Okay, that's actually really funny. I think, but then look at the Iron Hands, it's got Ice on it. So, I mean, I think here you just basically got to keep your Iron Hands alive because it is going to do a lot. And if we're going to see this Terra right now on Nate's side, and that means Iron Hands, not only does it knock out, it has moves to knock out the Fruit Bonnet, the Dondozo, and now it thinks the Terra, the Armor Rouge. So I think that Terra may help for a turn, but afterwards the Iron Hand's gonna be able to just
see. But this is the problem. This is only if you expected Nate to go for the Grass Terra.
Yeah.
And, like that's not really.
You're not going to. It's gonna definitely live a
yeah.
turn.
So there's the Wild Charge going into the Armor Rouge. There's very little damage here.
The big question is, will this Armor Cannon knock out? Hypervoice gonna go first. Which
he went for Trick Room on there. He reversed the Trick Room on this.
Okay, well, that's really good.
Smart idea, which is probably why he also went for the Terra Grass here, because he wanted to make sure that at least you don't take as much damage as you would ordinarily from
that's
Wild
really
Charge.
smart.
But on really reversing Trick Room is such a brilliant sort of thing to do, because you see the Armor Rouge is one, it was gonna go last I think no matter what, but Trick Room is being reversed now, so now you have the speed back in Nate's favor, which is really rough for Issac because he doesn't have another Trick Room setter on his team. The Frigoraph going down to the Brute Bonnet's Bullet Seeds actually going to hit 5 times. I actually don't think it really matters quite that much in the end.
Coming out
sure,
now.
yeah, Flutterman, I guess is like a pretty okay adjustment here, but it's still, there's still a lot of momentum on Nate's side going for that, right? Like,
yeah, Nate's has I think really what it's going to come down to is
you're not even going to take super effective damage from Shadow Ball anymore.
No, but it's at down with 64%, so I'm not sure it's not gonna really matter. I think right here, I would just Moonblast in general, because they're both gonna be neutral and one's weak to it. So I think I'm actually surprised we didn't see that Iron Hand switch out, because I think it, for me, I don't know, I don't think anything else on Isaac's side.
So there's the Moonblast going to Brute Bonnet. Is not enough to pick up the knockout here. Is going to get a special attack drop, which sure, that totally matters for you, Brute Bonnet. But Armor Cannon here from the Armor is going to be enough to pick up a knock. Actually, not enough.
Not quite.
Iron Hand's a little bit of a chunky Pokemon, is able to hold on here. Armorers, though, not going to play as much as Ice Punch is going to finally knock out this Brute Bonnet, which was absolutely brutalizing to Isaac's team. Was able to pick up the Frigoraph, was able to protect the Armorage for at least a turn or two.
Okay.
And actually, Nate's still in a really nice spot just because the Tatsugiri Dodonzo is just so frustrating to try to fight against each other.
So bulky. Yeah, I would do that as well. This is my thoughts. And I think I was saying this, when you look at the rest of the Pokemon that Isaac has, potentially you have Amoonguss, which is solid against Tatsudozo. You also have King Gambit, and you have Screamtail. Not really one of those can handle the combo of Tatsudozo. Amoonguss would be your best bet, but even then, Dondozo is bulky enough, and Amoonguss only has Pollen Puff. It cannot hit Dondozo hard. So I'm surprised we didn't see that Iron Hand switch out into whatever the fourth Pokemon is, because I would have probably saved it knowing that Dondozo is probably coming up. And it may cost him here. That's really, with that Earthquake potential. I don't think that will KO, because Iron Hands is inky, but it is going to at least do really solid chip damage on both Pokemon here. I think, that Terra Armor's going to switch out. They're going straight for that Tatsudozo combo. So here we go. I don't even know what you do here, because your best bet's to Wild Charge, but you're probably gonna live, and then after that, you can with the Earthquake, you're gonna probably be able to pick up the knockout on at least the Iron Hands thanks to Tatsugiri. So I think at this point that's what we're doing. We're gonna switch Iron Hand switch out.
Whatever comes in is going to be in for a bad. I mean, Amoonguss actually is probably the best Pokemon to eat up something like an Earthquake.
It is.
Even with the +2 here, the Moonblast from the Fluttermane obviously not going to hit because the Tatsugiri just jumped in after switching here. So now they're going for the Earthquake is going to be at that +2 Tatsugiri because it's in those mouth. Doesn't have to worry about it. Fluttermane takes a significant amount of damage from it. Amoonguss though eats it up pretty nicely. Another Earthquake here would probably knock them both out.
Okay.
However,
this is what I'm thinking. They can get the Earthquake. That's fine. This Amoonguss can spore. And we know Dondozo, it's got the Citrus Berry, so it would get spored. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see that on this turn. And then you could just spam the heck out of Fluttermane, and then Iron Hands as well. Dondozo with that
Donzo protects.
I mean, still, it does not necessarily a huge deal. I don't think you need your Fluttermane as much for the back. Because as long as you have your Iron Hands and your Amoonguss, I think you're fine, because Amoonguss with Pollen Puff, even if it's just Amoonguss, one of those two, Iron Hands or Amoonguss, should be able to pick up a knockout on Armor Rouge after the end of the turn. So I think here, if you could just...
+2 wave crash would have knocked out Amoonguss, but it'll pick up like an easy knockout on Fluttermane.
I think Amoonguss, personally, I think Amoonguss is more threatening because it has Pollen.
No, it is, but it's fine because even if it like gets knocked out, right, you still have the Tatsugiri and you still have the Armor Rouge, so you'll have 2 Pokemon still on the field. The Iron Hands is in a lot of trouble because of the...
switch to Flut. Oh, okay.
So I think the Iron Hands here is in range of a knockout even with that.
Yeah,
it's absolutely in range.
definitely.
Like, with the Wave Crash, even with the Resistance, it's at +2. So Iron Hands gonna go down. Sure that Donzo goes to sleep this turn because it's probably getting spored here.
I think maybe if they switch out, they maybe we're going for a Polypuff. Let's see. It could be either one.
I mean, I think you put the Donzo to sleep. Yeah, there's no reason not to put the Donzo to sleep, and if like things survive, then you Pollen Puff it next turn, right? So Isaac could have also played that as a protect, and then Pollen Puff next turn into it, and then do some damage into the Donzo.
I don't know. I feel like Iron Hands was a little bit of a better attacker against Dondozo. I mean, yeah, I can't wedge here, but like I just think.
Well, Dondozo's gonna have to take that sleep turn, right?
But like Moonblast isn't gonna do that much.
Special attack drop. Yeah, there you go.
It's not really gonna matter.
Yeah, it's just funny because you still get it, right?
Yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like this is gonna be it's still a really good position for Nate because not only do you have your Tatsugiri Dondozo, not to mention that Tatsugiri can do stuff after the Trick Room is.
If it wakes up here and does a Wave Crash, I don't even think the Pollen Puff would really matter here.
It's not gonna matter. It's gonna die.
Spend next turn. I think here you just have to go for a Spore into it on the off chance that it does wake up, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the game that you're gonna have to play as Isaac. You always have to click Spore into that spot no matter what, because if it wakes up, then you're in trouble.
I mean, you could Rage Powder, but like. Maybe, I don't know.
This next turn, I think you just have to start clicking Spore into into the Donzo spot again.
I mean, now at least your Fluttermane has a Focus Sash, which is really nice. But yeah, that's pretty much what you got to do.
So this is kind of like a weird back and forth between Isaac and Nate because you're playing the game of how lucky is Nate gonna get with like those sleep turns or unlucky. So Dondozo's staying fast asleep here.
If this Fluttermane stalls out Dondozo, I'm gonna be amazed with this. But I think it's a very real possibility.
I mean, that's part of the reason why Fluttermane is so nice, right? Is like it has the possibility to be able to just like do stuff like this too. So Fluttermane going for another Moonblast, like is slowly chipping away the health here of this Donzo. It is finally going to wake up, going for the Earthquake again. Is gonna have to go back to sleep because of the fact that this Amoonguss is gonna click Spore into it. There's no reason that it wouldn't. Amoonguss is also gonna eat up that berry, so gonna get back some more health here. So really just like Fluttermane just sort of free to take just take out the Donzo, and then that Tatsugiri is also gonna have to like, you know, do a little bit more work. Now here for the Amoonguss, you're gonna go ahead and go for the Pollen Puff again. The Donzo is gonna have to take that necessary sleep turn. So really Fluttermane just all it has to keep doing is keep clicking that Moonblast. It is going to go down next turn. Really, you should just click the Pollen Puff here. Like, Isaac is playing this sort of exchange really nicely. Just understanding, hey, I have to make sure that I heal up this Fluttermane. I have to make sure that the Donzo stays asleep. If this it's gonna go down because of the Moonblast.
That's amazing. I really genuinely did not think that Fluttermane would be able to do it, but those sleep turns and that combo just work so well. Oh, okay. That's interesting that they went for Pollen Puff. I mean, they are back to Sash, but still, I thought they were going to Spore onto the Tatsugiri. At this point, I mean, Fluttermane... the top part of Tatsugiri, I don't even...
don't know if I think Moonblast should KO.
It's Focus Sash, though.
No, the Moonblast from the Fluttermane should KO
on the Armor. Yeah, it should.
Here. If you oh my gosh, if you taunt the... I mean, taunting the Amoonguss isn't terrible.
I would. Oh man, yeah.
You're still kind of in a you're in a really interesting positioning here.
This is. I think Isaac's got a better position just because Fluttermane's at full health with the Focus Sash and is faster than Tatsugiri, but. Yeah, I wouldn't count out Nate. He's a really good player and knows how to play. Okay.
So Armor is going for Protect on this turn as Tatsugiri is out on the field. This Fluttermane is going to go for the Moonblast. Doesn't go into the Tatsugiri, actually goes instead into the Armor, which was hoping for that knockout because that 2v1 will like work in its favor. Tatsugiri going Draker Meter into the Amoonguss is not enough to pick up the knockout here. As that the Spore is going to put that Tatsugiri to sleep.
That may have been a deciding factor. I mean,
that is rough here for Nate. That Tatsugiri like not being able to pick up that knockout is really rough for it. Was probably.
That's what you needed. That's what you needed.
Double Protect would be fantastic here for Nate. I don't know if he's actually going to be able to get that off.
If not, I think it's over. Because
But this Fluttermane is in prime position just to go for the knockouts, and we are going to be going to a game 3 here.
Dang.
Amuga's actually going for Protect on this
I don't
turn.
blame on that one. That's a smart one.
But here, Fluttermane going for the Moonbox is going to pick up the knockout here on the Armor Rouge. Tatsugiri is going to be asleep. You know what, though? Actually, Fluttermane still has, it still has the Sash intact, so even if Tatsugiri is able to, like, wake up,
No, it doesn't matter.
So, yeah, this poor Tatsugiri tried its best. It was unable to do really much. I mean, if it manages to connect somehow with this, that'd be hilarious. Get the minus.
The Muddy Waters spam.
I mean, like I'm just saying, if you manage to get
Muddy
Water accuracy,
I know, that's what I was thinking.
Somehow get like this Fluttermane to miss, that would be absolutely wild, right? Because this will trigger the Oh nope, it won't even trigger Focus Bat. I think this is actually the first turn of like sleep.
Second turn.
This is the second.
They had a chance to wake up, but then that's over.
So.
Okay, that was really intense. If anyone says Fluttermane's not that bulky, you show them this, because I really genuinely did not think it would be able to hit those, take those Dondozo hits, but it did. And
no, I think the nice thing about that Fluttermane, it wasn't even just like about the bulkiness. It was the fact that Isaac was able to play that sort of exchange really nicely because of the fact that he understood. Like he understood, hey, this Amoonguss and Fluttermane combination, I can play this out very well. And use it to my advantage, right? And so what he has to do is understand, okay, once I spore this Pokemon, I can heal up my my Fluttermane to its full health, get that Sash back intact, and then start spamming Spore again, right? And part of it is like playing the gamble game as well, but after you hit a certain point, you're like, okay, now I have to click Spore again, now I have to start doing all of this to that Dodonzo. So I think really Isaac sort of played that in the end nicely, because there was a point where Nate turned it around with reversing that Trick Room, was able to get rid of the Trigraph, but Isaac was able to keep his cool and was able to just sort of say, hey, that's fine that I lost that, I'm still able to win this out. And like the Dodonzo Tatsugiri, I don't think is a terrible idea. I just think respecting the Amoonguss' Sport a little bit more against that might help in the long run.
I'm surprised we didn't see Wave Crash as much, honestly, because
he tried. He was just asleep when he was doing it.
Yeah, but still an Earthquake on that first turn, and then the turns that Nate was awake with, it was Earthquakes, and I think part of why that match worked out also was because you did keep that Focus Sash available on Fluttermane, so you were able to play more aggressively, knowing you're at least gonna hit 2 points. So if you hit that Wave Crash and knock that Focus Sash off Fluttermane, that would have, I think, been a bit of a I feel like that would have been a bit of a different end game, because you know that Fluttermane was not going to have that. I don't know if it wouldn't necessarily matter at the end, but just I don't know. It was one of those matches where like that may have been the difference. And did I say what I think I saw?
Which was?
Only Tatsu, no Dozo.
That's fine, but people do that all the time, right? Like it's definitely possible. The nice thing about like Tatsugiri Dodonzo is that if you lock yourself into the idea that they both have to be on the field, you're kind of really just
preparing for it.
Then you're limiting yourself in a lot of ways. And so I think having the flexibility of being understanding that they can work as 2 separate Pokemon also works. They just happen to work very well together, right?
The reason I was kind of concerned, or not concerned, but curious about that is there's potential Trick Room coming up here. However, we do know that Tatsugiri has Taunt, but Iron Hands also has Fake Out. So like, it was just a little confusing to me, because like, okay, that's a smart. There you go. Yeah, that's very fun.
Trick Room don't matter if everyone's stuck in Parish Song.
That was the right flag. I was confused. I originally confused with the Tatsu.
It's kind of funny because that is that is the most passive aggressive sort of lead that you can do.
It's like, really good.
Sorry. Like I don't know how else to word this. It's very passive aggressive, right? Because it's such an aggressive way of like locking and trying to knock out your opponent's Pokemon, but in such a passive way because you're not actually doing damage.
I think that's brilliant, because I was like, what, the Trick Room's gonna come out? Well, no, if you go for Perish.
Doesn't matter. Trick Room doesn't matter.
No,
everyone
it really doesn't.
Fainted at the end of 3 turns. Just kidding, it's just your team.
Yeah, I think if you Perish here, and okay, well, assuming that the Perish does actually happen, well, it does happen, but like, assuming that it goes the way that's very typical, where it's Protect, Attack, Protect, and then Switch.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Whoa.
Well,
okay.
They tried to be fast aggressive.
That's what I was just about to talk. I was like, that Fluttermane's gonna go down anyways.
Yeah.
However, there is still Parasong on the field and Gothitelle on the field. Yeah, that's actually interesting.
I mean, you still have to play around like the Perish trap, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This Gothitelle like just really has to make sure that it's like in a very nice position where it's able to at least stay alive. The safety goggles in this case might actually kind of work against it, because now you're in a spot where like, oh, okay, this is kind of rough. Like you can do the whole like fake out. So you can't fake out because of the armor tail, but you can at least go for the protects here. You can go for I mean, like there's stuff that you kind of have to be careful about. The Spore is still technically an option here for Blue Bonnet, but really what you're aiming is you're protecting your Gothitelle in a way that like everything can't attack it. Like things are gonna fall asleep. Like you have to force 2 to 3 turns of attacking into the Gothitelle, and at least you're gonna try to make it so that your Gothitelle can survive at least one attack, protect, survive a different attack, and like just Brute Bonnet's only goal here is to either put things to sleep or it is to make sure that it directs the attention to itself.
I don't. Leopard Bonnet. I'm not sure. That's tough because let's be real here. This is a mind games situation here, because if that Iron Hands does have Terra Grass, and if it's going for a potential Rage Powder, although it looks more like it's going to go for a Spore or Bullet Seed. Yeah, if it Terra's Grass here, that's not good. Because it's going to be able to negate that Spore and just hit that Brute Bonnet to the point where you're kind of trapping that Gothitelle in Perish Trap, because now you're down to 2, and there's the Terra Grass. So if this goes the way I think it does, this may have been backfired on Nate, because if that
he still has to try to like has to try to knock out the Gothitelle with like one hit, right?
Well, no, if he knocks out the Bonnet, then it's the Gothitelle is stuck in Perish.
Oh, I mean, the armor can still do a lot of damage on its own. Oh, sorry, the Tatsugiri is like do a lot of like damage on its own.
It would be like 2-on-1 essentially, yeah. Goth protects, no surprise on that one. Yeah, I think Drain Punch coming out, it does solid. That Terra though on Brute Bonnet, I was saying earlier, it gives it that bulk. It needed that Terra, because that now if you're Nate, I would be scared, because on this next turn, almost guaranteed, this Brute Bonnet is gone. Drain Punch plus Hyper Voice is going to KO it. You need to switch your Gothitelle out, and if you do, you're going to lose the Focus Sash on Tatsugiri. So what's more important? Do you lose the Brute Bonnet and keep your Tatsugiri at Focus Sash, or do you lose the Sash on Tatsugiri and keep your Gothitelle and Tatsugiri in together? It's a really tough situation where you have to pick one of the two, because at this point, Brute Bonnet can't protect, and opposing Pokemon are going to be able to knock it out on this next turn, and both of them outspeed on Trick Room. So, yeah, I think here, if you're Nate, you got to weigh out, is it worth going for? Yeah,
he's aiming for a double.
I think honestly, that's like that is your best bet, but at the same time, not really, because you're gonna lose your Bonnet. Yeah, this Gothitelle's gonna die on this next turn. It gets the double protect though. I mean, that's impressive, but this Gothitelle is gonna die here, I think. Wild or not? What? Oh, I thought they were sure gonna Drain Punch on that Bonnet.
There, which leaves us Fergraph, which did have the +1 from that Throat Spray, able to go for a Hyper Voice. Is not even close to knocking out this Brute Bonnet. Brute Bonnet going for that Bullet Seed is gonna get down that Fergraph, maybe down to half health again if it hits all for all 5. A little bit over half if it just gets the 4 or the 3. So still though, like Gothitelle able to hang around for another day, and honestly, Isaac his timer is almost up on here, if not already at 0 here. It's a one
more turn.
It's so.
I thought for sure that Drain Punch on Bonnet would have put it in just one position for Nate. Now Nate's in a really solid position because Isaac can't switch out, Nate can, and that's going to be able to. I mean, you're probably going to lose again Focus Sash, but now you're 3 on 2. That's fantastic, and
you have to make sure the Bonnet still lives, though. That's the problem.
It's dead either way, because I think Hyper Voice will KO. It may live it with like 5 HP actually. I mean,
to be fair, like the Hyper Voice didn't like knock it out last time. Like it was able to. No. Like the damage it just took from his Hyper Voice this last turn barely even moved that.
I think it was like 96. So yeah, I'll probably live with like 12. I thought Iron Hands should have hit the.
Did he go for triple protect? Dear God, that was a triple protection. That's like a okay.
If this hits, it's not really gonna matter. Gothitelle dies to Perish anyways.
like if he gets a triple protect, I wouldn't laugh so hard. But
That would have been the best thing ever. But
I mean, it's happened. I've seen triple protects happen before, but Iron Hand's going for the Ice Punch into Gothitelle, just to double down into Goth. That's actually really smart. I understand what Isaac was trying to do. Isaac was trying to see, hey, he was expecting the Gothitelle to switch out. But honestly, Brief on Tatsugiri is actually just really good here.
It's a good combo.
It's just doubling. Ooh, I think if it's a Megaset for Isaac in the back,
you know what?
Fluttermane and Amoonguss might actually win Isaac the game, and if that's what he
even if it's something else, if it's could be Gambit. I don't think it will Scream Tail.
No, I think Isaac's still in the better spot here, even with
I agree. I totally agree.
Both Pokemon. The sash is now officially broken on
Amoonguss,
that Tatsugiri. Amoonguss is one of the first Pokemon we revealed here, and it's Fluttermane. So
it's
it's
really
actually,
nice.
Like,
I think
it really is good for Isaac here because you are in kind of the driver's seat. You really just have to get rid of that Tatsugiri and like you're in a golden spot.
You just at this point
go for a double protect.
Tatsu can't really do anything here.
Actually, you know what? You're in Trick Room still, so you could use that to your advantage against the Fluttermane. That's the only that's the biggest thing you have to worry about here. But Amoonguss can go for Rage Powder, even if you
because spawn it's I think
that's just the only problem. You don't really have a way of. I mean, unless you put the Fluttermane somehow, but even then you're kind of in a rough spot. Rage Powder.
If anything, that Amoonguss is going to sleep. No, because it gets bored. It gets bored. Yeah, so if anything, Bullet Seed. Yeah, no, this is just at this point. Even if they go for Muddy Water,
really, the Parasong doesn't really hurt Isaac in a lot of ways because Nate actually had to invest a lot of resources into making sure that that Gothitelle stayed on the field. So honestly, it kind of helped Isaac a lot in the long term. Sure, the Tatsugiri can go for the taunt now. It won't really matter because it'll probably go down this turn to a Moonblast. And there's no way that that Boobon at that HP can take care of both of these Pokemon at the same time, especially when it doesn't have a way to recover any sort of HP. So it's actually kind of just in a really rough spot for me. On all honesty, it feels like that Parasong actually worked against his favor, especially with what Isaac had in the back, right? And so you see the forfeit here from Nate. Really kind of rough end to that game. Like most of the time the Parasong and the Paratrap sort of mechanic works really well. I think in this case the biggest problem that you have is that the Pokemon that you have the problem that you have in the back is that you have the Fluttermane and you have the Amoonguss, which work really well together in that sense. So it was a good try. It just didn't pan out in the end. I think that was actually the last match we were waiting for. Yeah,
so we're gonna get into top cut here.
Yeah, we'll let you guys know who our top cut players are as soon as it happens. But in the meantime, I do want to thank both Pow Gaming and Psycho Turtle